morning, supers. How are you feeling today? I hope you're doing very well. I hope we're all recovered from our Facebook hangover of yesterday that will go down in infamy. There is so much news to get to. We're going to talk about the Facebook outage, why it went down, and what you can do to help your business make sure that it's not entirely relying on just one source of social media platforms, online platforms in general. We're going to talk about the whistleblower situation with Facebook and what it could mean going forward for your business, advertising, and everything, and why Facebook won't ever probably charge anybody anything because there's a really good reason why they won't. Bitcoin hits $50,000 first time in 4 weeks. Ding, ding. It's been a while. Oh, I had to reach out for the bell. The Chinese developer, there's another Chinese developer who misses a bond payment as stress spreads beyond Evergrande, the Evergrande crisis. So that I'm still tracking the Evergrande crisis. We'll see. It seems like it might not be so much of a crisis now that the stock seems to be going up. So we'll get into that a little bit later. And if we had time, I have a story that says "No Work is Shameful. Immigrants Shape Michigan's Small Business Economy." So I'm excited to get there. Hey, Mohammed, thank you for joining us. Yes, we actually have a couple people. We have two people watching the live stream now. This for anyone who doesn't know, this live stream is available after the fact. It's also available on my podcast, the Super Joe Pardo Show, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, blah 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 podcast app that you can go and get whatever one that you prefer. You can go, you should be able to go get it. If there's one that you prefer and I'm not on it, let me know and I will make sure I get it on there. I also utilize this video to chop up and deliver individual videos later. So if you have any questions as we go through, drop them in the comments, drop them in the chat, and I will get to them by the end of the this live stream here on the EntrepreNEWS, which is always great to have people here. So yesterday was a very bad day for Facebook. It suffered the major outage, as most of you know. But what you might not know is the reason. So there is some technical stuff. I was in contact with a good friend of mine who works in security and reads a lot of Reddit. And there was some back and forth exchanges with who is supposedly a Facebook employee, and they were, kind of shedding some light early on as to what happened. And to the most simplistic thing is there was a configuration error that got populated to all of their chat or all of their routers throughout the world. And the best estimate, or the only estimate that I've heard, is about 60,000 of those routers. Now, with that said, I don't know how many of those are in data centers, and I don't know how many of those are crucial to people who work on work on what, how much of that is for Facebook, how much of that is for WhatsApp, how much of that is for Instagram. But apparently the problem was so widespread that Facebook employees could not email each other to communicate. They also could apparently their key cards were not working to get in and out of rooms at their offices. So it created a what effectively some were calling a quote unquote snow day in the Facebook land, right? But some of the bigger issues there, people weren't able to log in on other people's websites utilizing the Facebook authentication that they had utilized. So my recommendation is, whenever you sign up for a new website, don't use Google, don't use Facebook, don't use Twitter or any other service to log into that website. Create an account, an email address, even if it's a junk email. Make sure you're using a password that's not the same password that you use for other things. And that way you're not blocked out from utilizing the services because you just could not log in, because literally anything that was connected to facebook.com was down, including the fact that people could not, or people from like, or the GoDaddy services and like other domain registration services actually thought that facebook.com was vacant and was actually enabling it to be up for sale. Now, obviously, it wasn't up for sale, and it would be interesting to see if there was a bid for it to see how much it would have actually could have gone for. But this is the kind of stuff that happens, right? It happens in businesses. It doesn't normally happen in businesses that are worth as much as Facebook is, but it just goes to show you that anything can happen. With that said, this isn't the end of the world for Facebook. And because when you look at their overall track record, the last time, you have to go back to 2008 was the last time they had an outage. And I think that outage was just for like a couple of hours. I actually remember that day, surprisingly. But yeah, so it's important to have backup protocols for your business. Make sure that you're able to communicate with your customers, ideally through email. Check superjoepardo.com/aweber. You can get your account. There's a discount code there down in the description, and that'll enable you to have direct access to your customer base without having to go through Facebook, without having to go through Twitter. Some of the memes were hilarious yesterday, mostly on Twitter that I saw. Even Twitter saying like "hello," literally everyone, and and even some of the other accounts. Other accounts and companies chiming in to kind of poke fun at the fact that Facebook was down. Look, a lot of people got got things done productively yesterday, which was awesome to see, that, the world didn't stop spinning. But I just want you to always be thinking like, what can I do to diversify how I'm communicating to my customers and even myself, right? So my independent podcast conference and community, the community is based on Facebook, and there's over 5,000 members in that group. So, I have emails for around half, maybe a little over half of those people, but I don't have all the emails. So I'm putting an effort forward to make sure that I try to collect as many emails going forward from that group, just so that I have communication, not because I'm trying to spam them, not because I'm trying to sell them every 5 seconds, but because I want to make sure that like when we host our events, that we am able to actually have communication to those people. So make sure that you're doing everything you can to diversify those messages to your customers base. Let me see here. So basically it was a faulty thing. So now Facebook whistleblower to say Facebook whistleblower to say former employer an urgent threat to U.S. I don't want to say that it's overblown. I did catch some of the interview that they did. She did with 60 Minutes. I think there's a couple different ways to look at it, right? I don't know that it's the number one threat to America. I mean, we still have Twitter. Twitter enables people to communicate. Instagram has its own set of problems, but there's so many different threats that are brought upon America and dividing us. And I mean, even just the news itself, right? The media itself is divisive in and of itself. So I don't know that it's like potentially. I think what it is it speeds up the process. Since we're all there, we're all checking, fairly often. If you're not, that's awesome for you. I kind of wish I could slow my roll. I've done that in the past where I've taken the app off my phone. But yeah, so one thing that I think that stands out to me from this interview was that Facebook blatantly knows that they have the dials, right? And they know how to turn, they can turn things on, turn things off, and change things at their will, right? And we've seen this in the past, right? Like Facebook doesn't want you going off platform. So like if you share a link, it gets kind of squashed, right? It doesn't get as much sharing power as it possibly could. We've seen it with like, you want to share your YouTube video, cool, but like it's not going to go anywhere probably, or very close to nowhere, unless you're willing to put up the money for the people to see it. And somebody I saw posted a question about it. Was like, oh, why don't we just charge for Facebook? Every time you follow somebody, or you want to follow somebody on Instagram, you'll have to pay. And it's like, well, that's cool, because people will get more choosy with their money, but Facebook would never want that, because Facebook makes way more money having it free and available. And I don't want to say, I guess the word's like superfluous in the internet. And to some people, Facebook is the internet. They're not, some people aren't going on other websites very often or at all. They're pretty much living inside the app. So I think it's, I think that there should be some regulation that might need to be stepped in here, and take a look from a importance of keeping the reins on that amount of information that's able to quickly surface through the social media platforms. With that said, I don't think it should go away, but I think that we need to take a harder look at what we're creating and the perils that it's creating for us, right? And with that said, like, I'm on here, right? I'm on YouTube, and we're on the podcast, and we're creating content and spreading ideas and spreading news and all that. So it's a thing, and it just might, I don't know. I don't know what the best thing for that is, but I think that it wouldn't hurt to have an open conversation about where we are, where we're heading, and what does this all mean at the end of the day. And also, I think people need to take it a little less seriously overall. Bitcoin hits $50,000 for first time in 4 weeks. Bitcoin, the world's largest cryptocurrency by market value, rose to above the $50,000 mark for the first time in 4 weeks on Tuesday, adding to a series of gains since the start of October. So, all indications that, from my understanding, is that October is the month. October is the month that all the cryptocurrencies will rise up and be up. I mean, I know Dogecoin has going. It's going to get to the moon one of these days. But I think the main reason Bitcoin went down, apparently, for a little while there was I forget which country it was, Ecuador. One of the Latin American countries took on it as a legal tender in its country, and they gave $30 worth of Bitcoin to anyone who signed up for I guess a bank account to hold, like a crypto wallet, to hold their Bitcoin, which is awesome. But it took a hit, and so there's it definitely is a volatile asset that goes up and down. But at the end of the day, the way I see Bitcoin is I see it as the gold. There's only so much Bitcoin to go around. It very much will run out. We will, quote unquote, run out at some point. There will not be any more that's mined. So it's a limited resource. And that's actually, I mean, that's in some ways, that's a good thing, right? It enables you to set a benchmark for which you can hold other cryptocurrencies too. Now, there's a whole thing in the weeds that I could get into, talk about like the Lightning channel and all that. But and if you want to know what the Lightning channel is, it's basically like the equivalent of, if Bitcoin was gold, the dollar would be the equal to that gold, and that's how you trade in the dollar, because you can quickly like move dollars back and forth. Not gold. It's heavy. There's a lot of problems with moving gold back and forth. So I think long term, Bitcoin is still a great potential investment. I'm very much investing and even doing some mining myself, and I I think it's still early days. I think it's going to be a while before it gets to a point. I mean, just one transaction takes 10 minutes on Bitcoin, which like a lot of people don't necessarily like to talk about, but that's going to hold up the grocery store line, which is why they need something like a lightning lane where it gives you that opportunity to like move money, move Bitcoin between two accounts a lot quicker, and then close that account and then do the transaction in the day, like in a day or so afterwards. Yeah, so there's a lot going on there. Congratulations, Bitcoin. You probably will go back down before you know it, and then back up again. It is a bit of a roller coaster ride, but ultimately, I think it will continue to rise over the years. I don't see it going away. And I'd love to do a video talking more about my thoughts on the cryptocurrency and why I think it's important. So stay tuned for that. Maybe I'll do another EntrepreNEWS video on that in the future. Chinese developer misses bond payment as stress spreads beyond Evergrande crisis. Ratings agencies have downgraded Chinese developers Fantasia Holdings and Cynic Holdings over risks that their strained cash flow from risks from their strained cash flow situations. Fantasia Holdings did not repay a bond that matured on Monday. It said in a filing to the Hong Kong Exchange on Monday night. The real estate sector in China accounts for as much as 15% of the Asian giant's GDP, according to analysts' estimates. So basically there is bigger problem, the problems that Evergrande is facing, other companies are facing the same problems. They might not be, obviously they're not nearly as big, but the effects that they can be felt far and wide based on them defaulting on those loans and to those suppliers and paying the bills. So it's all, we don't want to see Evergrande fall apart. And I don't want to see other companies fall apart because the effects can be felt from a mile away. Now, with that said, speaking about Evergrande, why China Evergrande Group stock jumped 13% as of yesterday afternoon? It had jumped 13%. So let's see. Is it in a bit of a bind as at last report? The Chinese property giant had missed the deadline for two separate interest payments to foreign bondholders, who are starting to look for foreign bag holders because Evergrande had no trouble finding the money to pay interest in a domestic debt. And yet Evergrande stock is looking quite healthy this afternoon with its shares up 12.7% as of 1 p.m. Eastern. Why is that? Well, basically, let's see. So Wall Street Journal reported this morning Evergrande's property management business, Evergrande Property Services Group, has advised that is preparing to report inside information and a possible general offer for the shares of the company. It currently boasts $7.1 billion market capitalization, and investors today appear to be betting that if the subsidiary is sold, that it will free up a big chunk of cash with which Evergrande can cure the defaults on the two interest payments that it missed and provide cash to prevent any further missed payments for a while at least. So there is, it's a bet. It's a bet that everything's going to turn out fine, that they're going to raise the money and they're going to be able to get themselves out of this crisis that they have found themselves in. If you haven't watched any of the past videos I did about it, check them out over here. There's a lot to dig into it, and I know my coverage is not exactly the most in-depth to it, but I want to always try. My goal here is to bring information to you, the entrepreneur, the small business owner, that you can utilize in your own business and take to the next level. So finally, no work is shameful. Immigrants shape Michigan's small business economy. This is a great article. It's a very long article, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. But there was a couple of like one or two stories here. The pandemic clipped the wings of immigrant business owners. For 16 years, Dina Suarez was flourishing as a business owner, but she says the pandemic clipped her wings. She moved from California to Michigan in 1987 and saw there was a void she could fill, which is always what we're trying to do as entrepreneurs, as super entrepreneurs. When I got here, I realized that there was no business selling the food that I love, which was Salvadorian food. She said, I saw an opportunity and I really wanted to take advantage of that opportunity and share my culinary love for food with the community. In 2005, Suarez opened up the Pupuserie El Salvador in Wyoming, just outside of downtown Grand Rapids. The signature meal is the national dish of El Salvador, pupusas, thick griddle cakes filled with fish, chicken, or stewed beef, and served with salsa and cabbage relish. When the pandemic hit, Suarez said she felt forgotten by her local state and state government. A lot of Latino business in our community has been left behind because they're not being taken into account. No one really reached out to them. So there's a bunch of stories here that include just a bunch of immigrant people that have come to ended up coming to Michigan. I'll link all the links are below. So go and read that story. I just wanted to point out that like there's some really great people, hardworking people that aren't afraid to do what it takes to make it happen. I know my great grandfather was he was a huckster in Philly. Had a truck, got the vegetables and the fruit from Jersey, brought it into Philly to the market for people to buy, and that's how he made his living. So don't be afraid to jump in and find your niche, find the hole that you can help fill with what you have inside of you. And in that case, the passion and the opportunity are married and able to make money, and that's always best. But it doesn't always work out that way. So sometimes you gotta find the thing that's going to make the money in the short term. Now, Muhammad says, do you get copyright strike for commenting on Shark Tank? I have 0 copyright strikes, Muhammad, and anybody else asking. I make sure that the way I am producing these Shark Tank reaction videos, I am going out of my way to make sure that I am not getting not strikes, but claims as well as strikes, and is covered under fair use. So it's something that I've been working at for like getting close to a year. In November, it'll have been a year that I've been working on putting all of these together. We're actually getting ready to do Shark Tank season 13. So Friday night here on the East Coast, I should have all 4 episodes reacted to not long after, like within 2 hours or so of them going live on the air. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope you're looking forward to that. And I appreciate you all watching. It is always a great time having you here and enjoying the EntrepreNEWS. If you have a question, if you have a comment, if you have a suggestion for the EntrepreNEWS, please feel free to drop it in my inbox, joe@superjoepardo.com. You can also just go to superjoepardo.com, hit the contact button, and drop in your comment or comment below. Or there's plenty of ways to get in touch with me: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You name it, it's at Super Joe Pardo. So I look forward to hearing from you. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.